Welcome back to Cricket Wicket. In the last episode, we spoke about three really high points for India in the history of the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. This time, our topic is a little different. We're going to talk about three controversies, things that left a bad taste in the mouth. And like any other sport, cricket is very competitive. We end up doing a lot of wrong things in the heat of the moment. We're going to talk about three such instances in the history of the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. Let's, like the previous episode, Mahesh, let's go chronologically this time also. Okay. The first one is Sydney 2008. India lost the test. But is that the biggest news?
No, it was not the biggest news. The biggest news was what happened on the field, which was later on became a big controversy. India actually for the first time threatened to pull out of the tour, and that was better known as the Monkey Gate scandal.
Yeah.
Now,
so in perspective, we lost 2-0. The first two tests we lost.
We lost.
Sydney was the second test. We're going to talking about what happened in the Sydney test.
In the Sydney test. Now, what happened? See, like what you rightly said, there's a lot of competition between India and Australia.
Yeah.
Over the years. It's at times it's also known as the biggest battle in Test cricket is the two countries, India versus Australia.
So, just to digress, do you believe that today the Border-Gavaskar Trophy has upstaged the Ashes as cricket's final cricket's battle for bragging rights at the peak of the pyramid?
Not only today, I think for a very long period of time, I think the India versus Australia Test series was regarded as the pinnacle when it came to Test cricket, because both the teams were very skillful, were very talented, and the passion in which they played against each other was of a different level. If you look at it, India versus Pakistan at some point of time was considered to be the biggest Test series, the biggest rivalry. But I think over the last few years, I think India versus Australia has upstaged.
We don't play them in bilateral so much.
So that could be the reason also. But India versus Australia has been an absolute crackerjacker.
Okay. So Sydney 2008.
Sydney 2008. What happened is that there was a lot of... Okay, when you're playing against Australia, whether you're in India or in Australia, they like to give you a lot on the field. Whether it's a debutant who's playing, whether it's somebody who's played 100 test matches, they will keep sledging you, whether you like it or not. Sometimes they go a little overboard, sometimes it's funny, but whatever it is, they keep talking. So it was going on, everything was going on. So Harbhajan Singh and Sachin Tendulkar were at the crease when this incident that should not have happened. And that was the time when Harbhajan Singh used a North Indian slur, which is very commonly used in North India, which sounded
like a racist slur to Andrew Simons.
There
was a background to that.
Correct. That was the reason why he thought it was that. Yeah. Because in Mumbai, there was an ODI match going on. Okay. And there were a few kids who had worn some shirt and they had those, Malinga kind of hair, cut out. And they kept chanting whatever they had to chant.
And there was some body language also.
Body language, and there were some things that were told. Then actually the police interfered that time and got things under control. So like what you said, there was a backdrop to it. So when Harbhajan used a slur which sounded like what Simons had heard in Mumbai, he thought that Harbhajan was actually sledging him in a very wrong manner, passing a racial comment. Now that was not acceptable to him. So fortunately for Harbhajan, when he said that, Sachin Tendulkar was very close to him, so he heard what actually Harbhajan Singh had said. And Harbhajan Singh had not racially abused Simons, but he had used a North Indian slur, which is very popularly used in this part of the country. But Simons was not ready to accept it. If you look at the video, even Matthew Hayden says, no, now you're going to get it.
So if you look at the video, you will see Matthew Hayden getting involved, Michael Clarke, Ricky Ponting to some extent, Tendulkar. Mark Benson was the umpire, and he
Correct.
kind of had a long chat. Mark Benson was covering his mouth as he was speaking, so that, he's not lip read.
Correct.
You know? So, so the umpires had a role to play in this
Umpires
test.
had a
So
role to play.
tempers were flying, and Steve Buckner had a terrible match as an umpire.
Okay, finally, Andrew Simons was the man of the match for that match. Okay, however, he was out a couple of times, I guess.
He was not given.
He was not given out. So, umpiring quality,
I remember Rahul Dravid getting a bad decision.
yeah, umpire quality was very, very poor.
I remember Saurav Ganguly's dismissal was referred to Ricky Ponting.
Ricky Ponting and Ricky Ponting said he's
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
So, all these things had happened, and
Like conventions back in the day when it was a true gentleman's game, when
Oh,
you
there
would
was
you would clap on the way to the fence, and
no, those
all
things
that.
were not there.
We moved past all that.
We moved past all that, and then a time came that after the match, which also ended in a very, in the last over with Michael Clark coming in, getting the last 2-3 wickets, and all that
That
happened.
was heartbreaking, tragic.
Absolute tragic.
2 overs to go, we had 3 wickets,
And
the part-timer, Michael
came and
Clark,
got it.
took the wickets of Harbhajan,
Ishant
Sharma, and
Umesh Yadav?
RP Singh. I think,
RP
yeah. In 5 balls, he took 3 wickets, and we lost.
And we lost the match. So, after the match was over, the match referee invited
Mike Proctor.
Mike Proctor invited the 2 captains, and Harbhajan Singh, Sachin Tendulkar, Andrew Simons. So there was a hearing, and after the hearing was done, it was taken to the next level. So then it was thought that they would ban Harbhajan Singh for a few matches.
3 matches, yeah.
Yeah.
And he banned him for 3 matches
He banned
initially.
him also. So that is when the Indian board protested, and Anil Kumble at that point of time said that there is only one team
Yeah, that's
that
right.
is playing cricket. Okay, and we threatened that we would come back, we would call off the tour and come back. Then whatever happened, legally everything was sorted out, and the match.
Yeah, so
Harbhajan
they
continued.
they slapped a 3-match ban on Harbhajan, and then we appealed, and
We got it
it sort of
reversed.
became a judicial process, and they met, and testifying for the witness for Harbhajan was Sachin, because he was
He
on
was
the
the
field,
closest.
and Hayden and Clark and Ponting was there for
Correct.
Andrew Simons. Eventually, the ruling came in India's favor. Baji's ban was lifted. There was a fine, I think, they
There
gave
was a
him.
fine, but what happened is that Andrew Simons got mentally scarred, and if you see from then onwards,
Career went
his career
downhill.
went downhill, and then finally, what happened. But surprisingly, Mumbai Indians picked him up, and Harbhajan and Simons actually shared a dressing room.
Yeah.
So IPL actually, men's
In a way. So 2008 was also the year of the IPL, and the next auction, they picked both of them.
But it was.
It was not the auction?
No, not this auction, because the first auction, Harbhajan played for Mumbai Indians. He went and played for the Deccan Chargers.
Deccan Chargers.
Those days it was
So
Deccan
he-
Chargers. It was in the re-auction, the next auction when it came. That
They
is
got
when
them
he came.
together. So that was quite smart,
Actually, everything was resolved
Yeah,
and sorted, and
So nothing permanent, right? These are not
not.
enemies. They're
No,
just rivals. They're just opponents. And in the heat of the moment, things get
get
said.
out of hand, and they say something which, like what you said, they both would have repented for it. Harbhajan would have repented for the fact that he said something like a North Indian slur. Simons at some point of time would have forgiven, and they shared the dressing room and all that thing. But at the end of the day, it was something that should not have happened, and but it happened. But that
Yeah.
series actually was controversy marred. I mean, everything was a controversy. We went back to Perth and beat them.
Yeah,
And that was the high point.
nobody
of that
thought
series.
we would win in Perth. Perth was supposed to be this bouncy, wacka wicket. Anil Kumble, you mentioned about him, and Anil Kumble, not much is spoken about Anil Kumble as a captain.
But
you
he
know.
did a fantastic job.
Fantastic job. He showed what the stuff he is made of really as a leader. And hats off to Anil Kumble for the way he
No doubt about
led the team in that troubled phase. This comment is a very strong comment. Only one team played in the spirit of the game.
Correct.
I think that
That actually,
it set things going, and we didn't win the series. But the Perth victory is sort of a model win for India. We didn't expect. Sachin and Dravid shared a beautiful stand
Good
in the first innings. Baji was eligible to play in Perth, but we did not play him in the 11. It was Perth, so we had one spinner.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter that he was cleared by the judiciary. So
Means a
he-
lot.
no
Means a
problem.
lot.
So I think the board stood by him. I think Tendulkar's.
And I think the
Testing.
legal recourse we took, I think
took,
finally it
and
worked.
Tendulkar was very clear about what he had heard.
Yeah,
So
and
there
in
were
the
a lot of
end,
things
better
sorted.
sense
Yeah,
prevailed,
absolutely.
right? Yeah.
So it was overall a series that had a lot of controversies, but fair enough.
Monkey Gate is what this is known
It
as.
is known as,
Is known as. So
Sad.
that was the first of the three controversies, first of the three unfortunate incidents in the history of Border-Gavaskar Trophy. The second one is something that has more to do with Australian team's internal affairs. India did not have much to do with it. This happened in India, and
What is it known as?
2013.
What gate is that?
Children will know this name very well. It is known as the homework gate, and we're going to talk about the homework
Cricketers
gate.
doing homework.
Cricketers doing homework. Okay, some context again. Australia in India, I think 4-0, right?
lost.
4-0. So
This was after the second test match.
this was between the second and third test.
Yeah,
The
they
first
lost
test
to Chennai.
they lost at Chennai.
Where Dhoni scored a double
Dhoni
century.
scored a double century. They moved to
Hyderabad.
Hyderabad. Cheteshwar Pujara scored a double century.
Correct.
Murli Vijay was among the runs.
Yes.
2-0, and they were pretty much under pressure. And there was a gap between the second test and the third test to be played in Mohali. And I think there was a 3-day window in which the coach Mickey Arthur wanted all the team members to get back to him with a few pointers, kind of a self-appraisal as to what I should do better and what the team could do better, that sort of thing.
This was because they lost the first two tests.
They lost the first two tests, or they lost the first two tests. That is the context. That was the way Mickey Arthur wanted to do things. Maybe he wanted to send a message to the team. As it turned out, 4 players did not do the
They
needful.
were the rebels of this class.
They did not do the needful. They were Shane Watson, a senior, Mitchell Johnson.
Wasn't he the vice captain? I think Shane Watson was
was vice captain. Mitchell Johnson, James Pattinson, and Usman Khwaja. These 4 of them did not do their thing, and promptly they were suspended from the third test. But there are a lot of undercurrents to it.
Did all the 4 play in the second test match?
No, James Pattinson played. Shane Watson, being the vice captain and a key member, played. So Usman Khwaja did not play, and Mitchell Johnson.
So how did they expect Mitchell Johnson and Usman Khwaja to write something about some performance that they had not even performed?
Yeah, probably it's something about the dressing room atmosphere and the strategy, which is for the
Or
entire.
how to take the
How
water
to
to the ground?
take the yeah, maybe that also, yeah. Or how to pass on a message to the players who are out there in the middle. See, couple of very interesting things in this. Shane Watson flew back.
Okay.
Okay, it was the birth of his child.
So it was good timing.
So fortuitous. The timing was, it kind of matched, and he was able to probably assess his priorities once again. Ironically enough, he came back and played the 4th test and captained them in the 4th test
But
because
what happened to Clark?
Clark missed the test. So irony of the highest order. Usman Khwaja was to have got a playing 11 berth, and he knew that the message was coming, but instead he got in for a rude shock.
Unpleasant surprise.
That would have been his first test in Indian soil, and his first Indian test happened very recently.
Correct.
He had to wait all these years. Today Usman Khwaja is undroppable.
Yeah, he's a big
become
name.
a much bigger,
He's a big name now.
much bigger name. There's another interesting anecdote to it. If you listen to Mickey Arthur, okay, he said, I wasn't planning to make this a big thing after all. This opening batsman, Ed Cowan, asked him, so boss, what's with those self-critics? Have you got from everyone? And they were sitting in the flight, I think. So he had to answer that, I did not get it from these 4 guys. Michael Clark was sitting there, so they all heard, and it kind of became the talk of town, sort of. It became big, and he could not have risked being seen as not taking an action on that.
So do you think that Michael Clark would have pushed this thing?
Michael Clark might have pushed this because we know that Michael Clark and Shane Watson were not in the best of terms those days. So it's quite possible that Shane Watson was feeling kind of
What
left
actually
out.
went wrong between Shane Watson and Michael Clark?
Shane Watson, what was the story?
The Shane Watson Michael Clark story goes like this: that when Mike Hussey retired from
Okay.
from Test cricket,
They wanted a party and
it was in Sydney. So Michael Clark had organized a yacht trip to in the Sydney harbour. Uh, some businessman was ready to give them the yacht, and they was supposed to go. But Mike Hussey said that he's not interested in coming for the cruise kind of a thing.
okay.
Okay. So Shane Watson said that I would rather stay with Mike Hussey, and he said that I too am not going to join you. So from there onwards, there was some kind
Rift?
of discomfort between
Look,
Mike Hussey and
these things happen, but you need to place
need to
the
grow
team's
up.
interest.
You need to grow up,
So, were they were in the wrong? I think they should have. If the coach asked for it, they should have submitted it. But should the coach have handled things this way? Definitely no.
Yeah.
Because did he get the desired result? The idea is not to find out who did wrong and take a punitive action, right? Idea is to pull the team up together. That never happened.
maybe he could have handled the whole thing differently.
Absolutely.
Probably he could have called these people and said, okay, you know what?
I think it eventually cost him his job.
Yeah.
And,
Australia, I think after that has never ever
appointed a
appointed a
non-Australian,
non-Australian as a coach, because I think they realized
Interesting. Ed Cowan probably kept his place in the 11 because of this. He kind of made this innocuous comment to the coach, and his place would have been in the line. I mean, this is not a conspiracy theory. I'm not not even alluding that he did it deliberately or something, and it's too far-fetched to think that it might have been given. But it's just a joke, okay? Ed Cowan asking him this, and this thing snowballing out of control, and Watson not available, Khwaja not available, Ed Cowan safe as the opener for the third and fourth test. You never know. Achha, one more thing.
Lost all the matches.
Yeah, one more
despite
thing.
all the
one thing happened important to world cricket is that Steve Smith got a chance as a proper batter in that test. He had played as a leg spinner before. He had batted at number 6 before.
For a very long time, Steve Smith was considered only to be a white ball player.
Yeah, leg spinner and a utility white ball player. And I really, Australia had this long line of batting greats who would lead the team, right? Alan Border, Steve Waugh, Ricky Ponting,
Mark Taylor,
Michael Clark, and then Steve Smith. And when Smith became captain, I had my doubts, and I mean, admitting it in front of everybody. But he proved me wrong. He proved a lot of us wrong. But this match actually was an opportunity for him to bat up the order. He scored 92. And he had not become the Steve Smith we have come to know now.
Yeah, he was not a GOAT at that point of
time. No. He became one. He probably grabbed this opportunity. And Smith and Khwaja are much bigger names these days. In the fourth test, I think Mitchell Johnson also played in the fourth test.
Yeah.
Except Usman Khwaja.
It was only one test ban.
Yeah,
right?
Usman Khwaja never got his chance anyway. The other three eventually played. And Watson captained the team.
Which I think is you call it karma, dharma, whatever you want to call it. It was phenomenal.
Yeah. So that was our the second of the 3 unsavory incidents in the history of Border-Gavaskar Trophy. The third one was not really an Australian internal affairs thing. It was about the tensions between India and Australia. Yeah. Here again, we are going in chronological order, right? We went from 2008 Sydney to 2013, and now we go to 2017. I'll give you the context. We took his name already just now, Steve Smith. 2017, Steve Smith had become the Steve Smith. 4 test matches, Australia won the test in the first test at Pune. Pune, right? Yeah, Pune, they won the first test. Steve Smith century. Steve O'Keefe took 6 for 35 in both innings. Incidentally, a record.
That itself is...
Yeah. Second test was the only test in the series that Steve Smith did not score a century. He could not. And that's what this story is really about. So, we call it, not we as in Cricket Wicket. Cricket media calls it the Brainfade incident involving Steve Smith. So, you want to say something about it?
from whatever I remember,
Yeah.
he was plumb LBW to Umesh Yadav.
Okay.
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 But
That he was plumb LBW.
yes. But there is a little bit of a backdrop to it.
Okay.
Anil Kumble was the coach,
Correct.
correct? So Anil Kumble, before the match started, told the cameraman to put one camera on the Australian dressing room, just to make sure that nothing is going to be conveyed or relayed to the players in the field. Because by that time, the Indians had got a wind of what the Australians were doing. As soon as there would be any doubtful decision, they would look at the
Yeah.
dressing room and they would get some
Yeah,
kind of
that's right.
hint
That's-
whether they should
that's
go
right.
for the
That's right.
review or not.
That's right.
And when this happened, as always, it's clearly seen in, I mean, you pull out the YouTube video, you will see that the non-striker starts walking towards Smith. I think it's Hanscom,
Peter Hanscom. Yeah.
Peter Hanscom. He comes towards him, but he looks towards the dressing room to get, and you can see immediately Virat Kohli running
Yeah,
towards
yeah,
the
yeah.
umpire, and the umpire saying, now you
That's
can't
right.
take the review,
That's right.
and you're out.
So Steve Smith was asking Peter Hanscom, and they had a quick chat, and then Smith turned his head and looked at the dressing room. He was not referring to the two umpires, Richard Illingworth and Nigel Long, and Richard Kettleborough, who was the third umpire.
umpire.
He was referring to umpire 2.5, which is the Australian
Australian umpire.
dressing room. I think, strangely enough, what it seemed to me was that Peter Hanscom was like, okay, let's check with them, as if it's normal. And Virat Kohli had gone on record later saying that when he was batting, he had seen this happen a couple of times, and he had forewarned the umpires that this is going to happen again.
So I guess the Indian dressing room must have discussed this. That's
Yeah.
the reason why Anil Kumble went and told the cameraman to fix one in the Australian dressing room.
Yeah. So yeah, possible. So the next time they did it, they caught it. Australia were chasing in the fourth innings, and Umesh Yadav trapped Steve Smith plumb in front. They were 74 for 3. They were chasing 189, and umpire intervened. So Smith had to, without taking the
He was not allowed to take a
Yeah,
review.
he just walked out. So 74 for 4. They were all out for 112. India won that
Test match.
There's one interesting thing. I think it was Sunil Gavaskar who said that he gave some data in terms of before this incident versus after. Australia's strike rate in terms of having a decision overturned. So before this incident, they were able to overturn 7 out of 16 referrals, decisions through referrals. After that, it became 1 out of 12.
So,
What were his reference points? Which 12? Maybe the first 12 or that. But he gave some numbers to the effect that this had impacted the Australians. So it's just one of those things. Steve Smith later referred to it as I had a brain fade moment.
I think in that same evening in the press conference,
Yeah,
did
yeah.
he say that?
He
said that.
apologized for that. Virat Kohli would not have anything of that.
But later on, it was Virat who told the crowd not to boo
Yes,
Steve
so
Smith
things
in the World Cup.
It was during the World Cup. Yeah,
That was after he was banned.
Yeah,
by,
after he had this 1-year ban. But I think since then things have improved between Virat Kohli and Steve Smith. The goats understand each other
better.
Yeah. So that was our the third of the 3 unsavory incidents involving India and Australia in the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. Okay, it was great bringing this to you. We'll come back to you soon. Thank you.